Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the TheCivShow podcast. I'm your host, Moisos.
And I'm Nystagmus, and we're also joined by AFK this time.
AFK, baby. He's back, and he looks as good as ever.
Yeah.
But we suck, so you don't have to, by the way. Oh, anyway, Zoe is not here this week. He decided to go pitch some tents out in the woods today. He was supposed to give a statement, but in typical Zoe fashion, he forgot. So we don't have that. For all we know, he's missing, and we should call 911 right now. But you know what? He's on his own. He's doing his thing.
He's doing the quintessential Canadian thing, going out camping.
Yeah, going out in the bush.
Usually when Canadians say they're going to go camping, it means we're going to go to a wooded area, stand around a campfire, and drink beer. That's generally what happens.
My camping as a kid was pitching a tent in my backyard. And that was it.
Oh, I remember doing that. That was always awesome, man. That was awesome.
That was fun, but that was as much camping as I ever did, and I still to this day haven't really gone camping. Like I've gone to the cottage, but I've always slept in a structure. You know what I mean? I can't. I don't know if I can do the whole sleep on the ground or sleep on the I don't know how comfortable tents are. I don't know if you bring like a blow up mattress or if you just sleep on the ground. I don't even know if I can do it, man. It's not my type of thing.
Yeah, and you're talking to me, the kid who used to be a scout, right?
I don't.
Yeah.
I learned. I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was a Cub and I was a Scout. I was actually an adventurer for a while too, which is like the level above Scouts Canada.
Okay.
But it's less formal. So our group dissolved after 6 months. But yeah. I've been winter camping.
Camping. Oh my God. Hell no. Are you serious?
If you have the right equipment, winter camping is pretty fun.
Oh, shut up!
Obviously, it sucks if you show up with
if
you show up with a summer tent or crappy sleeping bags, then yeah, it's not going to be fun at all. But it can be pretty fun.
There's such thing as a winter tent. It's a thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah. So winter sleeping bags too.
I know that, yeah, because I see sleeping bags that are advertised for minus 35 Celsius or something like that. I'm like, wow, that must be
It's actually pretty mild. There are a lot of equipment that you can get equipment that's rated to minus 50, minus 60 degrees Celsius too.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Anyway, civilization, right? Civilization. Here we go. Last week we introduced our new format, the Big Game Hunters. It was a 3 humans, me, Zoe, and Nystagmus, versus 5 AI. However, it's an 8-player free-for-all, so everybody's for themselves, and there's still only one winner. These 5 AIs are all on deity level, so it is the most difficult it can be, and that's the format. So currently, as it stands, Rome has been taken and then taken back by yourself.
So yeah, most of the action has taken place within my empire in this game. So what happened was I spawned with 3 computers on my continent. Moy spawned with 2 computers on his continent. And Zoe spawned by himself as usual. That seems to be
So
he
typical.
has to have some sort of exploit that's going on with that. But yeah, he spawned by himself with everything that his Civ needed too, which was kind of weird, right? He had a big desert. Um,
Literally the middle of the desert.
yeah.
I couldn't believe it. But I learned that Mali, it's only with for those who don't know, Zoe is playing the Mali. I'm playing Korea, and Nystagmus is playing Rome. So
Hmm.
Zoe spawned in the middle of the desert. However, I didn't know this. It's only flatland desert that gets the. I think it's +1 faith, +1 gold. I think it
Okay.
is. And so, because I remember I was looking at the stream, and I was kind of looking at his tiles, and I'm like, where's the plus faith? I'm like, I don't really see it. And I think a lot of them were hills, and so I don't know how much of the I don't know how much truly advantage he got, but he did get eventually the
Yeah.
pantheon that gave him the plus adjacency for holy sites and
Yeah.
desert, and that hurt. That hurts us.
Yeah.
But
And he got the Petra too, right? So
yeah, and he got Petra. Dude, his tiles
yeah.
look crazy right now. But he had a massive sandstorm that
Man, I
pillaged
wish
his
I had.
holy site. And he's like, this is glitched. This is bugged. I don't have my production anymore. What's going on? And then someone in chat, it's like, didn't you just have a sandstorm rip through your lands? Like, once it's pillaged, it's gone. He's like, ah.
Well, at least he has time to and production to spare to build wonders. I wish I had production to spare to build wonders while my empire was being overrun by the Manpucci. Um,
I don't think
so
I've
the
built a
reason why I
wonder
played on
yet.
tilt that game, I was on tilt for like the half of that game, right? So, and I apologize to everybody because I was like not happy, but I thought I turned it. Like I thought
No, go keep going. Sorry.
Man, oh, sorry. I thought Manpucci um like attacked me and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm turning this around." And then they just showed up with like all these units and just like wiped me out. Um Also I lost my vampire to a misclick, so that was awesome.
Oh yeah,
And
I totally forgot about that.
so yeah, it just I keep doing things and and I've actually went back and watched it. I did it. I killed the vampire because I misclicked him.
So,
So when he went back to the capital, I accidentally clicked him to attack a barbarian immediately after he respawned at the capital and he
oh
died.
no.
so,
So I
so
actually
that's
I captured that moment. Like it happened. You saw it.
yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. I mean, yeah, I totally purposely had it on your camera at that particular moment. Yeah.
And uh um yeah, yeah, I was like just watching because it was like you can when you're switching it wasn't like zoomed in on that moment, but I it's what I deduced that happened because I couldn't
Oh.
figure out anyone who actually attacked the capital and killed the vampire. And so I was like the only way this happened was it did that auto cycle thing where it cycled through my unit and I accidentally clicked on it to attack a barbarian,
Yeah,
and
that
so it
would have
only
been
had
it.
one. Yeah, it only had one health, so it attacked the barbarian with one health and then died. And so that was awesome. I went back and decided to get really mad about that. And so I lost my vampire. Had to wait to a new era to get a new vampire. Um, and then Manpucci took over Rome, and then Zoe helped me take it back. Uh, and then, as soon as I started getting back on my feet, Brazil out of nowhere attacks me. We
Let's
were actually
talk about that afterwards.
he
Keep
was actually
going.
smiley. He was a smiley face with me. He was friendly with me, and he just like surprise warred me out of nowhere. And so yeah, that
I'm surprised at that. But um, also, so me being Korea, I don't really have a focus on war right now unless I have to. I couldn't get to you. You're on the complete opposite side of the world as me. I can't go
mhm.
west because it's completely blocked off by a continent, so I can't get any boats that way. So I had to go east, and then when I did go east, I was on the wrong side of your continent. So then I had to go all the way south, and then go around your continent to finally meet you. So I've just met you before we ended the session last game, last game. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna stick with those words. And so I couldn't
works.
even.
Everyone knows what we're referring to.
Yeah, exactly. So I couldn't really even help you, even if I could, right?
Well, luckily, I decided to turn this event of Brazil declaring war on me into a cluster of because apparently it's very easy to convince the computers to attack each other. I did not realize this because so Brazil attacked me, so now he's at war with Zoe and me, and we're at war with the Manpucci. But then we made peace with them, And then so I'm only at war with Brazil. But if anyone remembers from the game, Brazil is way ahead of me. I'm building like I'm maybe right about to be able to build bombards, and Brazil has artillery.
This
So
dude
this is
has like
how much.
170 science or something like that.
Yeah.
It's
So
nuts.
I am completely outclassed here. And what we decided to try doing was, and we kind of, in apologies, we kind of screwed over Moy on this one,
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
but what I did was I asked Saladin, who's my other neighbor, to attack Brazil because they were at war before, and it took 1 gold to convince him to do that because he said no immediately, and then I said, "What will it take to make this like happen?" And he said 1 gold. I'm
Yeah,
like,
give me a
okay.
penny. All right.
So I did that, and then I asked the Manpucci, who hate me, to attack war on them as well, and it took them 1 gold as well to convince them to do it. And so yeah, so now Brazil is now fighting me, Zoe, and the other 2 people on the continent. And so that was very interesting, and we haven't even met the computers on your continent,
No,
but
so on my continent there is America, Rough Rider America. I think it's Rough Rider. And then who's the other person on my continent? China. China.
mhm.
Right. So I'm allies with America, China, and Brazil because those were the first three that I met that wanted to be my friend. Saladin doesn't really like me. They're like on me. And then also the other person that's on your island, not Mapuche, but the other guy. Do you remember who it is at
Yeah,
all?
it's Brazil.
No, there's more than one, another one on your island, I
It's
think.
Manpucci, Saladin, and
Oh, so I guess it's
Brazil.
Mapuche. So Mapuche in Arabia doesn't like me. They don't like me. So I'm like, okay, I'll be friends with Brazil. So I'm allies with Brazil, America, China. And so when Zoe declared war on Brazil, he declared war on me in turn. And I didn't even meet him yet. And then suddenly like I'm at war with him. I'm like, what? And that's how I met him. I didn't even meet one of his units. I just went to war with him apparently. So I'm at war with Zoe, and I have to somehow get peace out of him. Uh, Somehow. I hope he doesn't be like, nope, not doing it. Just gonna come down to your lands and kill all your people. That would
I don't
suck.
think so. He has his hands full right now
Maybe,
with
but
what's
he
going on our
also
continent.
could be in full military mode where he just wants to keep going in full military mode. So we'll see about that. However, I'm getting ahead in science, so I don't know if he can finish his war with Brazil and then come to war with me. I don't think that'll work out for him very well, despite him being in full military mode. So I'm at war with Zoe. And then you convinced Arabia to declare war on Brazil. So now I'm at war with Arabia. And then you declared war, and then you convinced Mapuche to declare war on Brazil. And now I'm at war with Mapuche. And I'm at war with half the world. And apparently this is how World War One started. And we're just
And
replicating it
and then
with different sims.
I wonder if because you're allied with the 2 people on your continent, if that automatically makes all the computers on our continent at war with them as well.
No, so they're not allied with Brazil. We're
Oh, okay.
so I like
But
when you make an ally with somebody, you have a defensive pact with that one
oh,
like that pair. So just
okay.
because I'm friends with Brazil, they're at war with me. So they're not at war with America or anything like that.
Okay, okay. So that then it would be really like how World War One started if that happened. Like all the alliances basically force everyone to just declare war after like 2 people declared war on each other, and then it just sucks everyone else into the conflict.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what happened in with the alliance system during World War One. So that's pretty interesting turn of events in our game. I don't know how I'm going to play this. If Brazil pushes on me, he's going to take my new capital, which is what happened after Rome was taken. I have no way of withstanding that attack. And even if I do, I know Zoe keeps on saying like, "You'll come back, you'll come back." I'm like, I am so far
Dude,
behind.
steal like I have to not be allies with Brazil and then attack his left side, his west. It's the only way for him to like split his army, or maybe he's not going to really attack you, or he's going to split his army where everyone's going to be focused. He's going to have to focus in so many different places. He's already at war with his northeast with you, and his east with Saladin. And I don't know if he's got to protect so many fronts, and you already know that Mapuche's ready for war. He already went to war with you, and he has military units, and he's going to keep building his military units because he is in his prime right now, boy. And then there's
Hmm.
Saladin, who has his knights, who's also in his prime, or it's just past his prime, and I can't tell. But he is going to be like, yeah, let's do it, like 100%. So you convinced the two people who are just going to rip through Brazil. Brazil doesn't have a unique unit other than a battleship, which they could have if they have steel at this point, which is very
Oh,
scary.
that would be
That
scary.
would be
Yeah,
very scary. But
we can have all the military in the world. We can't take his cities because they're so well defended with this steel, right? So
oh, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Um, yeah, you'd have to get to because bombards are so useless against steel. They're useless against Renaissance, and steel's better than Renaissance. So yeah, that's
you'd have to
gonna
have like bombers or yeah, bombers basically.
artillery is good against steel. Zoe tested that when he was like pummeling my cities for so long, and then he finally got artillery, and I had steel, and he like in 2 shots killed my walls. He had an army of artillery, mind you, so it's a little bit it's stronger than the regular artillery, but
Yeah.
it was good enough to rip through my walls. Like it chunked it so hard. Yeah, so you
So either
can't get
way, like
artillery.
we'll see how it goes next week. I feel like I'm going to be more of like kingmaker, I guess, as opposed to like being someone who could actually have a a viable way forward to win,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, I thought, oh man, I was, the other reason too is I thought I was doing so well too. I was doing so well up to that point, and then the Manpucci just showed up and just like just beat me down. It was so bad.
Deity,
Um,
man, deity. I remember I told you this at the almost at the very start when you were fast expanding. I'm like, hey, we're on deity difficulty. Let's worry about our defenses. And you're like, nope. I got a game plan. I'm gonna fast expand so I
no,
don't have to worry
so
about it.
So it was just like if I had a couple more turns, I would have had my defensive perimeter up. It was a bad game. It was a gamble, but I think it would have pulled off because I had my legions and I was going to start building my Roman forts,
Mm.
right? And if I had those up, there was no way they were going to come through. Um,
So the classic
so
strat apparently on deity, at least from VectorCat, our deity expert, our local deity expert, is just build a ton of slingers and then upgrade them to archers, and you're good, right? You have archers, you sit them in your city, you sit them behind your city so that they have to come around. But if they come around, they're kind of, whatever. They're at least they're not attacking your city, and then you could just keep shooting and shooting and shooting. Even if it only takes off a fifth of their health, if you have 5 archers, you can kill 1 unit every turn, and none of your units die, and that's enough just to keep poking away at the bear until he finally gets away, right? Build your
mm,
archers. They're really good. I noticed when you were defending, you had 0 range, and when you did, they were outside your cities. Why?
right. Well, so I was switching to building my archers, but the thing was is that when the initial attack, I stopped it. I then was going like the reason why I discovered the units coming to kill me was I thought I pushed my advantage. So I was actually moving my army up to attack him and start taking like his cities. I was going to take that city state
Oh,
he took,
oh, that's so
right?
tough,
So
man.
I was transitioning to offense, right? And so that's why I didn't like that's why I said it was like one or two poor decisions I made that like it made it bad. So I all the things that were about to complete when I was moving forward were my legions, right? Because they're awesome against like cities too, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're pretty good. And so if I push his army back before it came back to kill me, if I was building archers instead and playing a defensive game, then yeah, I probably would have held it off. But because I was focusing on an offensive game because I was like, oh yeah, maybe I like killed all his units or most of the units, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I could just go and start attacking his cities and because I had a streak. I killed I think 7 of his units before they killed one of mine. So I think maybe I got a little overconfident with my tacticianal my tactical ability.
Yeah,
I
you
was
have to
like, oh my god, I'm
really,
crushing him.
you have to really be crushing the guy before you can take the cities. Change of topic here.
Mhm.
If you had to choose between right now who's gonna win, I would assume you're probably not gonna pick yourself.
No, obviously not.
Just based off of what you've told me in the past. Do
I
you
don't even
think
think, even if I was like in a good position, possibly winning position, I wouldn't choose myself.
if who do you think is currently in the lead this game?
Zo.
Why? I agree with you,
Well,
but
one,
I'm wondering why you say that.
his score, he has a good score lead on
He's
us.
got a lot of
If we ever,
wonders. I never count whoever's in the lead with just score. It's
I know, but
misleading.
I am going by our victory conditions, right?
True. Okay.
So one of our victory conditions is we're going to do this for 2 weeks. If by the end of next week we don't have a clear cut winner, then we have to go by score, right? So he's got the score edge, right? The only thing that may like cut that down is the fact that now he's in full on. I'm going to try to take over the world mode, um, and so he may not build any more wonders, but so he's got the score edge. He doesn't really have a science edge or anything like that. So I think I just think he's in the best position. So he's on a continent with me as his ally,
Hmm.
and he's got a couple of civilizations just ripe for the picking for him to just start, crushing cities and stuff like that. Um, in fact, if he wanted to, he can continue because he has a city on my continent. Loyalty is not going to be as big of a deal.
You can still
And so he,
surround his city with your cities and loyalty, but like, hey man, just get more cities on my island, and he can't. Like, well, that sucks. And then you can kind of like take over your continent back that way, and then try to
I
make
was,
allies with some CPUs and be like, yeah, come attack
yeah,
me, I dare you. Like, come on.
I was still surprised by how poorly the Roman cities were faring with war weariness because they start with monuments and stuff, right? So you would think like the culture and things
Monuments
like that.
don't affect amenities,
No, no.
unfortunately.
What I meant was I was losing cities to loyalty
Oh,
at one point.
loyalty. Okay, 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 okay.
Yeah. So I wasn't pushing out my borders as much as I could because my cities were so like war weary.
Oh, so the war
And
weariness
so
is affecting your amenities, which was affecting your
yeah,
loyalty. Got it. Now
yeah.
I'm caught up. Okay, okay.
And so I'm not in any position to like start like exporting my loyalty mainly because my amenities haven't been fixed yet. I know I'm not at war with Mampucci anymore, but I still had like -2 amenities because they when they took Rome, that's where a lot of my luxury resources were.
Hmm.
And I haven't been able to
Pair
recuperate
those.
that yet.
Okay, okay.
And it's about to get a whole lot worse because I have a bunch of units that are about to die to Brazil. So we'll have to see what happens.
So currently in Koreatown, over my land, uh, I think I'm like second or third, possibly fourth, but like really close to science per turn right now. Um, I've now got my like 100% adjacency bonuses. I have campuses in almost, I think, all of my cities, or the Seowans and all of my cities. And dude, this Seowan it's it's weird, but really good. But if you play it wrong, they could just be really bad. So you can't, if you build them beside another district, that's -1 science. Okay, so they start with 4. You have to build it on a hill, and they start with 4 adjacency bonus. So if you build it next to another district, -1. So you need to build this far away from everything else if you can. Then,
Hmm.
if you build it next to your city center, which counts as a district, quote unquote, -1. So you need to at least buy a tile away before you can build it. Okay, so -1. And then if you kind of crowd your cities too much in a way where you kind of start running out of room to place some districts, and then now you have to kind of start scavenging, and it's like, okay, I have to place a district here because it's the only place I can place it. You can get a -1 too. So you can only have you could potentially get yourself down to a 0. I would assume you can't go negative, but you can potentially go down to a 0 in that uh, in that aspect.
Mhm.
Plus, now with the new diplomatic quarter, having that beside your districts make it more protected. But if you play it right, all the Seowans are going to be completely alone and completely vulnerable. The only way to protect them is a counter spy, or just luck of the draw that your diplomatic quarter just gives you that edge, because it gives you like a base protection against offensive spies. Just gives you that little bit
Yeah.
of an edge that their offensive spies are going to be worse. It's weird. It's That's the best way to describe it. The first one you ever build, however, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but the first one you ever build is the biggest difference you get in the entire game. because the +4 you immediately get, the whole almost classical era was like 1 or 2 turns to research anything, even in quick speed, which I was super surprised. So yeah, which now Seowan I learned. So I did a little bit of fact checking here. Okay, you're gonna be really proud of me, Mr. History Buff. Seowan was a school, basically. It's just like a school, and this is like back in the day, they started tearing them down, but the Korean government said, okay, if you're gonna start tearing these down, leave these 9, and we're making these heritage sites. So you cannot take these 9 down. So only not, maybe my number's wrong, but only 9 exist in all of Korea now, and now it's their cultural heritage site, which I guess why it's like, okay, if you have a unique building, like this is the building that you have, and they define your heritage, so this is the Seo one. That's my research on Korea. There you go. Thank you. This has become Better Know Civilization with Moist Sauce. Sign it off.
Try to steal my thunder. Actually, I will. When you ask like who has the best chance of winning, I think I'll give like probabilities. Okay. I think it's like 40% likely none of us win, and a computer wins.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I think it's like 40% likely that, or like 30 to 35% likely that Zoe will win. Like he has a third chance basically. And if he does win, it'll likely be like either a religious victory or a culture victory. And then you have like a 20 to 25% chance of victory. It would probably most likely be a science victory. And then I have like a 1 to 2% chance of winning. And that would just be like if everyone just decides to implode and I just like show up and like expand or something.
That's if suddenly I accidentally turn on apocalypse mode and meteors just start falling from the ground and everybody starts dying.
we turn on apocalypse mode and the meteors just target everyone but Rome, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if Zoe can win a religious victory. I don't think he has it in him. I don't think he has it in him to really focus solely on religion. He passively does it, and he gets the traits to only passively do it. He gets the one that when he settles a new city, it's the majority in a city, so he doesn't have to buy missionaries. He gets the one that is plus 30% stronger or goes 30% further away from his cities because he doesn't have to build missionaries, right? He always goes for like the Grandmaster Chapel, which is you purchase military units with faith, which is by far the best second tier building you can get. If you ask me, the new meta right now, faith, military, void singers. Mm-hmm. I had this discussion with Vector Cat earlier, like a very, very brief one. Easily the new like meta if you're playing with secret societies on, because all you got to do is focus on faith. You're going to keep up with science, culture, and gold because 20% of
faith is the new gold, man.
Faith is the new gold. You don't even need to build anything, just faith, and you can shit out faith. Pardon my French, as you would say. You can just poo it out because man, those holy sites with those massive adjacency bonuses you can get with pantheons, the buildings you can get, even the additional buildings that you can get, it is insane the amount of faith per turn you can get. 1,000 faith per turn is not hard to achieve, and you can get it with probably 5 cities, if that.
Yep. We got Vector Cat in the chat here agreeing with you. Yep, it was already so good, and voice singers just made it so much better.
Well, yeah, I really, really want to play a Faith Civ. Like I'm dying to play a Faith Civ at this point, which is so weird to say on the Civ show. I didn't think I'd ever say something like that. You want to take a break?
Yeah, we'll take a short break.
Let's take a short break. All right, let's take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to be talking about this new game that's been quite a little bit of a buzz lately called Humankind. It's the other 4X game made by or published by Sega, and we're going to be talking a little bit about it and contrasting and comparing the differences and the similarities between Humankind and Civilization. So don't go anywhere because we will be right back. Welcome back to the TheCivShow podcast. We suck so you don't have to. Let's talk about humankind. It's not civilization, but it's related. It's kind of like its evil cousin. So, hey, humankind, here we go. Humankind is developed by a company called Amplitude. They call humankind its magnum opus. If you don't know what that means, basically it's their grand possession. This is the project that they're most proud of and the best thing that they'll ever make. They're doing some really interesting approaches even when it comes to developing the game. So right now, Humankind is in a closed pre-alpha, so it's really early stages, and you need an invite in order to get into this pre-alpha. You can sign up for an invite on their website, humankind.game. If you're chosen, you can try it out. It goes until Monday, August. Let me grab the date here really quick. August 17th is the last day of this current beta, and then they'll probably open it up again, and we go from there. But what I'm getting to here is they are so early in the game. However, they're releasing this pre-alpha version because they want to develop the game alongside community feedback, which I think is awesome, because I cannot tell you how many times that a game gets released and immediately the community is like, why did you do it this way? It blows my mind. And so I think it's super interesting that it's not just a company building a game, it's a company plus the fans and community that are kind of building this game. And that's really interesting. Do you know, I don't know how really into the gaming industry side you are on, but do you know of any other game that kind of does that before it's released? So not counting updates in StarCraft and not counting updates in games that are already released. Just
my number one was gonna be StarCraft. Right?
Yeah,
StarCraft does that a lot, right? Blizzard does that for a lot of their games. I think they do it for Warcraft too as well, right?
Debatably.
Probably not to this extent.
Okay. It's
probably not to this extent, but I guess maybe the Warhammer series.
Yeah, like Total War? Or you mean talking about Total War?
Not just Total War, but even I guess if we're going to extend it past video games, but also in tabletop games as well. They take a lot of community feedback on rules and stuff like.
Did I lose you?
10 edition.
I think I'm losing you here.
For what?
Okay, you're back. You cut out. You completely cut out.
Sorry. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. So, for
tabletop games.
For tabletop games. So for Warhammer Fantasy, there's 10 additions to the rules, because they keep on changing them based on community feedback from games that take place in Games Workshop.
Okay.
So you have to play you can play in Games Workshop the actual place where you buy the models, and so that's the big thing. But to this extent, I don't know of any other major developer that's doing it. I don't know if chat knows anyone else that, and I'm obviously not an authority on this, so.
Yeah, so I just think that's really interesting. So the beta right now it's 3 very specific scenarios that they're showcasing very specific parts of the game. I've only played the first one so far, so we did get invites. All 3 of us got invites. However, I'm the only one. We got them today. Today being August 13th. So they haven't played it yet. I played the first scenario, and it's basically just a part of the game where you explore the map. You just start to learn a little bit of the combat by fighting some neutral things, and then you do some city development. You just kind of learn that aspect of the game. One of the most interesting parts about that first scenario was the combat. So later on in the other scenarios, they showcased the third scenario today on their stream, and the combat it blew my mind how different, it's completely different than Civilization, where in Civ you have each unit occupies one tile. You can't unit stack, which makes sense, and then you can't override each other, and it's just a turn-based combat. Everybody shoots each other, whatever, right? Pretty straightforward. In Humankind, So there's like these phases. Okay, so you have this travel phase, aka like just all the time, like nothing's happening. So you can, this is where you can stack units. Okay, you can stack like a horse and a spearman, warrior, archer, whatever. You can stack them all in one unit, and you can go. So I think it inherits, like, I would imagine, the lowest movement cost unit, and that's the max it can go. So if you have a horseman and a warrior, it just might not be the best advantage there, but maybe your variety would get the better you. So you can move in armies, they call it. So you can have an army of units, which is just a group of units. When you get into combat, right? When you get into combat, that's when it goes into this combat phase. And immediately, if you're the attacker, you have to place your units on the map first. So in the surrounding area of the battle, in like 3 or 4 tiles radius, you can place your units on your half of the radius. So you can, like, okay, I want my horsemen on the west side so they can try to flank around. I can put my warriors in the middle to try to occupy that space, and I'll put my archers in the back so they can shoot from the back. Once the attackers places their units, the defenders then can react to wherever the attackers places units. So it's kind of like an interesting balance of the attackers can get the good spots on the map, but then the defenders can say, okay, since you're there, I can respond this way. So it's kind of like that interesting dynamic of place first but place good, or play second but know where the enemy's going to be. Then it's regular combat. Then it's like your Civ combat, where it's kind of turn based. It's There's more to it, but I'm not going to get into it because it's not super important. But
You know
like,
that's you know how that's similar to?
no,
This is a game I used to play a long time ago. And I don't know if anyone in chat knows about this or if you know this game. There's a game called Conquest of the New World.
never heard of it. No.
And so it's an old 4X game. It's basically your colonies of the New World, and be Britain or Portugal or Spain, and you can actually declare independence from like from the mother country and stuff.
Okay.
You build cities and stuff like that. But the armies move as a single unit on the map, and then when you attack each other, it goes to a new field, and it's like a chess match. For exactly what you said, you put all if you're the attacker, you can put all your units on the field first, and then the other people do it, and then you start taking turns with each other,
Okay.
attacking them and stuff. And so that when you put it that way, it kind of reminds me of that format. But this game's like this game, like I used to play this game when I was like 12 years old.
Yeah, so I wonder if they kind of took it from that, like inspiration from that. That's a good, yeah. But I thought it was like super intuitive that you have these armies, but then, because we talked about how in Civ, I think it's Civ 4 or maybe Civ 3, the unit stacking, right? And how like you can attack like what seems like a tank, but there's like 5 tanks in there, and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Right. So this one's a little bit different, where there's clearly a number stating how many units are in this army. So you can't really be surprised by that, because you can clearly see what's in the army. And then even after that, you have to individually place them anyway. So I thought that was like really interesting. Like, oh, that's really cool. Even the better part about this, so you know how when we do war, before we did simultaneous turns, it was kind of like, turn-based. Like you do all your turns, like everything. You have to do the whole city management, movement, battles, governor placements, whatever. You did your entire turn, right? So in Humankind, there's like 2 different things you can control. It goes into this turn-based system, but only that battle is turn-based. So you can do your turns in the battle, and then it's the other guy's turn. While he's taking his turn in battle, you can go to your cities and start doing your city management, your unit movement that's not in battles. You can do anything else in the game. And then when it's your turn, you go back to battle. Like, okay, now I can move these units and move that, attack him, and then the other guy's turn, and just keep doing your turn. So nobody has like this waiting, like super wait moment. It's everyone can kind of still take their turns at the same time, but then you still have this fairness of turn-based battle.
Now, can you do you retreat as well in the battle? Like
You can.
retreat?
You have an option to retreat. Yeah.
Hmm.
But like, I didn't read too much into like the debuffs you get from retreating. Um, my first thought is that you lose units automatically, but then you can get out. Um, I don't know how that works, so I don't really want to speculate too much and spread
Okay.
false information. But yes, you can retreat. It was but it may also be like if you just misclicked the attack and you're like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. You can retreat, but that's no cost. Like you can just do that.
Hmm.
I tried to retreat in the middle of a battle once and it didn't work. So the part I left out purposefully is that there's 5 rounds per turn of battle, and there's 3 question mark turns per battle. So I think after the 5 rounds, you have a choice of whether you can press on or you can retreat. So I never got to that 5th round, so I don't know. But they did mention that like, yeah, you can retreat, but then I couldn't do it on round 3 or 5. So I'm like, I don't know when I
Oh,
can do
so
this.
maybe like keeping the battle like commits you to a certain number of moves,
Yeah,
and
I
then
think
after
so.
that, some certain number of moves you can retreat.
Yeah, you have the choice to like press or retreat. So like you can just try to minimize your losses that way. Maybe there's no
Which
like
is which is what happens in
repercussion.
Conquest of the New World as well. Like when you set up all your pieces,
What? Oh
when
wow.
someone attacks, then they get to attack, but you can't retreat until they're done all their attacks,
Mm.
right? And so yeah, it just reminds me of that a little bit. It was a fun game back then, but
Wow, that's
um,
cool. That's cool that they basically they drew inspiration from other games. The other important part about this game,
well,
or
I haven't played it yet, so I'll let you know if
yeah, yeah,
it's like it. Yeah, it
it's
just sounds that way
it
to me
sound yeah
when you're
no, it's
describing it.
with the way you even described your game. It sounds exactly the same. So the other important aspect to humankind, and probably the biggest difference between civilization and humankind, is eras. So in Civ 6, that's when they introduced these eras and era score and golden ages and everything
Hmm.
like that. However, eras and humankind are way different. So I'm going to directly read this from PCGamer.com. So this is a direct quote from them. There are 6 distinct eras along the timeline of your campaign, beginning, as you'd expect, with the prehistoric era, the ancient era. In this phase, you're establishing the foundations of your culture, making decisions like where to build your first settlement, whether to split up your tribe to cover more ground, and risk being savaged by. These are the neutrals on the map, by the way. Mammoths, deer,
Hmm.
like elk, which you can hunt, which is incredible. When you see a mammoth, you're like, what the hell? It's huge. It's crazy. Or stay together as a stronger unit covering less ground. Then at the end of each era, you pick from a list of 10 cultures you'll choose to represent in the coming era. So, what this means is that you can start with a Babylonian culture, because that's what you start with in the first scenario. You start with this Babylonian culture, which focuses on science. When that era is done, you can keep the Babylonian culture, or you can adapt a new one. So in the next era, in the Bronze era, you can say, okay, now I want to adopt the Egyptian culture. I want to adapt the, what does this say here? I can't read the rest of them. But basically, you can. It's not like you pick one civ like you do in Civilization. You pick a culture for every era, and you can inherit their abilities with every era. So then you kind of like
Hmm.
build your own civilization around the cultures of existing ones, which I think is really interesting. And it leaves an endless amount of possibilities, even in the middle of a game, of adapting. Of like, okay, I built a ton of science with the Babylonians. I don't really need to focus on that right now. Let's focus on growth, or let's focus on military now that I have so many good units. Right? I think
And
that's so cool.
yeah, and the thing that would make that really kind of strange in like the multiplayer universe. So, for example, when you play Civ, right? Someone plays Grand Columbia. Okay, well, you know a lot about Grand Columbia already. You know like what kind of special units they have, what they focus on, what their strengths and weaknesses are. I wonder if like how we said, like I was saying, how my spy game in Civ 6 is so bad. Maybe that is like critical to humankind because how are you supposed to know what someone is focusing on, right?
I don't
If
know that
if the
much.
name of their civilization doesn't clue you in to like what their civilization normally focuses on, you're gonna have to figure that out somehow, right? In order to play multiplayer. Otherwise, how do you counter, right?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. That's a good question. I
Um,
didn't think about that.
like for if I'm playing Manpucci, you know they're gonna attack you right early on, right?
Right, right,
They're
right,
a
right, right,
war.
right.
They're And if we're playing humankind and no civilization humankind has, what they've traded up is that civilization 6 is like take on known civilizations throughout history, and we'll give them these attributes that we all know them from, right? Romans, right? Blah, blah, blah. Humankind seems to be more like, we're not going to do any of that stuff. We're just going to take attributes from human civilizations, and you can just kind of Jenga your own civilization together,
Yeah,
right?
it's cool
And
though.
so,
It's like really cool.
which I'm not saying is bad. It's just it's way different, right? And it would have like a really different feel to it. I feel right, like and I feel like humankind might be moving more towards, because it has that flexibility. It may not be as much of a multiplayer game as Civilization 6 is. It might be more of like a single player,
Maybe,
kind of a build your own adventure game.
but they do support multiplayer. So
Okay.
we will see. Well, it says like when you go to the Steam page, it says single player and then online PvP. So maybe it's not like the regular game when it's multiplayer. That's something I gotta ask, I guess. But it would like I don't know why it wouldn't be the regular game in multiplayer. Like it would make the most sense. And I don't
There's
know.
just I'm just thinking there's got to be cues
Yeah,
that you know what the other guy is doing, so you know, like, because if everyone's just playing blind, right?
it just might be color based, like red, and then like they're just always red no matter who you pick.
Hmm. I wonder how it's going to play out in, like, does that mean like, okay, well, when I play Civ 6, I can only get this special unit because I play this one Civ. But I wonder if humankind has special units, but you can like make it so that you get anyone you want, basically. Like you can like move in and or is it more generic,
It's
basically?
well, you get unique units like if depending on the culture you pick, right? So like if you pick Germans, you get like a one specific German unit. But then if you pick on the reverse side, if you pick instead you pick England, you get the English unit. So like you almost get like a unique unit every time. There's always something that's good about your unique civilization.
Hmm. That's interesting too, because in Civ it's more about timing your Civ to peak at a certain time, right? Whereas in humankind, you can like, I
It's
guess.
just like what's the best path of like focus? Do I focus on science first with Babylons, and then do I go with military? I think some maybe some cultures don't have a unique unit, but they have like unique
Oh yeah,
things
that's what
that.
Vector Cat says here. You'll be able to tell what cultures the player is leaning towards because some give unique units. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Thank you, Vector Cat. Appreciate it. There are 10 cultures in every era, and there's 6 eras right now. So there's 60 um, different cultures. If you want to make a combination of the 6 and how many you can make, that's what 6 times. What's that math? Is it just like
Well, they say over 1 million.
is it what is it like 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10? So 6? Is
Yeah,
that is
so a
that
million.
yeah, well, okay, there you go. That's hey, we
Yeah,
did the math. There's a million different possibilities.
it's 10 to the power 6.
Yeah, okay, I
It's
was right. Yeah.
it's how many possible combinations
So
you
there's
have.
10 million then.
No, 10 to the 6 is
10 to the
1
6
million.
is 10 million.
Yeah.
1 to the 6. Oh
10 to
no,
the,
1 to the 6, sorry.
10 to the 6 is 1 followed by 6 zeros.
I thought it was 10 followed by 6 zeros. I think you're right. You're probably right. You're a doctor. You're probably right. I'm not going to argue you. So that's cool. There's 2 more things I want to talk about before we end. To settle cities, it's not like you have to build a settler like in Civilization. It's you can use any unit, as far as I'm concerned. You can use any unit and you build an outpost. So when you build an outpost, there's like segregated territories already, right? If you build an
Hmm.
outpost anywhere in that territory, you claim the entire territory, right? And then the outpost, if you have enough money, you can turn it into a city. And then you can then build around and produce units out of your city. But until then, it's just an outpost. It's claimed land, but it's so easily. It's not even defendable. It can get ransacked and get killed
Hmm.
so easily, and you need to be able to turn it into a city ASAP. There's no builders. You have to instead purchase improvements on everything. It has a more focus. It has a very very heavy focus on economy, humankind, which Zoe would absolutely just get a kick from. Um, but yeah, it's a super heavy focus on economy. But I just think it's kind of like weird that like you just you just build an outpost and like there's your city, and it's strange. But then you're also limited to we're really getting in the weeds here. There's these things called administrators and generals. So the generals, in the first scenario there was like 16 generals. What that means is that you can have 16 unique armies on the map before repercussions start to happen, like increased maintenance cost. So basically one general per army. Administrators is that, but for cities. So at the start of the game, you only have 2 administrators, so you can only support 2 cities. And in order for you to get more administrators, you have to unlock them through technology. And so like as you progress through the technology, then you unlock another administrator, then you can get another city. So it's like this, like, it's just so strange, but so fresh and unique. And like it might just be that uniqueness that's so different than everybody else that it stands out. You know what I mean? Like if you play any civilization, you're building settlers, right? I think even like with any other 4X game, you have this unique unit that settles a city, whereas in this one, it's completely out in left field and like doing its own thing. I just think that's interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is interesting.
The other and the last thing, oh shoot, I lost it, and it's come on, Moy, get with it. Shoot, I don't remember anymore. That sucks. Oh, okay. It's events. So certain events can happen, and you have to make usually it's 3 decisions, 1 in 3 decisions of how to handle that event. So a really good example of this, what happened to me when I played Babylon, it was the enemy, it wasn't really an enemy at the time, but an opponent came into your palace and brought a board game. And the board game was able to tell prophecies for people that are playing, right? Like a Ouija board, pretty much, if you want to think of it that way. So the Ouija board, or the game, prophesies that the king will get killed. Like the king is going to die, right, for your own civilization. So you have a choice. You can pay everybody who's in the room off so they never speak of it again, and you pay 100 gold, but then nothing else happens, and that's it. You can let it go and like do nothing, and your people start to get unhappy for like 10 turns, and they start to decrease your I don't remember what they call it, but basically unhappiness. Or you can what was the third one? I think it was just like kill the guy. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's gotta be kill the messenger's gotta be one of them, right?
I think so.
That happens like in so many historical stories. Like that's gotta be one of the options.
Yeah, I think that's it. But like so you have these like unique events, and I remember them saying that there's so many unique events that you can have 500 hours in this game and you're still encountering new things. Like they created so many events, and then all of those can like determine. Some of them have more lasting effects. One of them was, I still don't know what the outcome of this was, but one of them was you now have a calendar. Like, how do you decide what your calendar is based off? The solar or lunar? So how they described it, and how I interpreted this was, it said like, solar will allow the changes, the understanding of seasons, and then lunar is what people are comfortable with. So how I interpreted that was, if you do solar, then your crops will do better because you understand seasons and you will understand when to plant things and when things are good. Whereas in lunar, my interpretation of that was that your people will be happier because it's what they're used to and they don't need to change to anything else. But like I said, I still don't know what the outcome of that was, but that's what happened. I thought it was really interesting.
It is interesting. Like I'm interested to get my hand, like to try it out and see what happens.
The other one I saw, I didn't experience this one, but I saw it somewhere else, was you can have a patriarchy, a matriarchy, or just both. Like it doesn't matter. I'm like, oh, that might spark some some anger in some people.
Well, like, cause we're only getting like little snippets here, right? And the
Yeah,
one thing that's still a big mystery is like, what is the late game going to look like? It's
nobody
also going to get
knows.
it's going to get
Nobody
more
knows.
complex, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
it And so one of the things you hear and this is the good thing, cool thing about knowing history is, as a general rule, um, as civilizational learning occurs. So the big thing about civilization is that is the bedrock of it, is what's called civilizational learning. It's the one generation's ability to pass on the knowledge of its generation and generations before it to the next generation, right?
Okay.
So the biggest step was writing, right? If you're able to write things down, that's enough learning that you can pass on to someone else, right? We learn from books,
Mhm.
right? And so one of the rules of like big history, when you look at the big picture, is that as time goes on and we're able to get more and more civilizational learning, we get more complex social structures and we consume more energy, right? And
Okay.
so as a rule of that, as for the game like this, like Humankind, I would see that the as you move forward throughout the game, the amount of possible outcomes completely starts going up exponentially,
Yeah. I think
right?
this game's I think way more complex than Civ. Like it will be
And
anyway.
so And so because right now in Civ, right, there's something there's a predictability to Civ, right? You go
Yeah.
down a tech tree that puts you in a very, very predictable position,
Same idea with
and not like
Humankind.
that.
There's a tech tree in Humankind
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
But the way that this one is set up, where you make these decisions more, like, it seems that you make smaller, bigger decisions more often in this game that deviates the path,
True.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and so just the way you're describing it. And so I feel like right now you can choose between like patriarchy and matriarchy, right? Which is, kind of like one of the simplest kind of different ways of ordering a society. But when you go it up, I wonder if they're going to play with that and you move on to, republics or, empires, and then, what kind of other forms of government, and then how are they going to also organize economically? I know in Civ, really the only outcome of choosing like theocracy versus monarchy or something like that is the cards you get to
Yeah.
play,
Yeah.
and some of the or how many cards you get, and also each one has a bonus, right?
Hmm.
This one seems like it's setting it up for, it changes like the very fabric of how your society operates, right?
Yeah.
That's just the way you're describing it. I'm kind of like reaching right now,
No, no,
but
no. You're dead on. You're dead on. And like
um
so, yeah. It changes just like so. If you have, I'm gonna speculate a little bit here. If you choose a matriarchy, I'm just gonna say that like maybe the growth in your civilization goes up. But if you choose a patriarchy, maybe your military goes up. Just on a whim there. And then there's also the option of like they both can do it. I don't know what that one would do, but maybe that's kind of like the neutral take. Um, but like yeah, like it does determine the future of your civilization just from that like one choice. So yeah, there's more
and
paths you can go down. Yeah.
and I wonder if previous decisions affect what options you have in the future.
I believe so because maybe you choose a patriarchy and then maybe they get overthrown or the vice versa, right?
All right. And so, yeah, and from what you say about like the people being unhappy and stuff like that, I feel like they're also going to have probably a more play into revolt,
Mm-hmm.
right? And doing more with revolts kind of thing, and being whether or not you can put them down or something like that, and that kind of stuff. Or anarchy might be a little bit more in depth in this game, because it does seem, just from like the way you're describing and what I read online, that this game is, one of its greatest draws is that it's infinitely more complex than Civ, it looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a double-edged sword,
Yeah, it
right?
is. Yeah.
If it's too complex, it becomes less fun to play, especially when like if the game becomes too unpredictable, where like it seems like if the game is so unpredictable that it doesn't seem like any of your decisions matter, because it's just you can't even move into a certain path,
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes kind of like a futile endeavor. Whereas, but if it's complex enough where you think that you can tailor things very well and have a handle on it, it can be very enjoyable to see, starting from like a little tribe, and then you get later on in the game and you have this massive civilization that
Mm-hmm.
you're commanding. Now the only thing I don't know, what are like the win conditions and stuff like that. How
So
do you win?
the
How do you quote win the game,
yeah,
right? And
so they
um,
have fame, they call it, and I think with every era, somebody earns one civilization earns fame. So whoever you know builds like basically, if you want to think of it in Civ terms, who has the most score during that one era. So who
okay,
builds the most wonders, who takes over the most cities, who grows the most, who has the most research, blah 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 blah. You get a fame or like a star essentially, and so those stars at the end of it determines who the ultimate winner is, and that's the only win condition as far as I'm concerned. That is the only win condition is like these fame stars.
hmm.
So it's not like in
They
Civ where
better
there's these other
they
ones.
better not be like the stars in Mario Party, like
No, no, I don't think so. I don't.
where you get them, and then at the end of the game they award like here's some participation stars, and it's in categories that make absolutely no sense. And then I literally we had someone when we played that game, we had someone win a game who had the lowest. They had 0 stars, right?
Hmm.
And someone had 3 stars, but the person won 4 bonus categories, and it was dumb things like who had the best sidekick or something like that. And it's just like no way you can plan for it. And so they won the game. And I was like, okay, that's annoying. But when you said stars, it just reminded me of like Super Mario Party.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be like that. I'm reading it right now. So there are 21 stars available in each era. So the ancient era is just as important as the last era, the modern era, right?
hmm.
So you need to be on your game throughout the entire game in order to win this thing. Awesome, by the way. Um, so there's 21 stars available in each era. Over 6 eras, that's 126 possible stars that you can earn. You need to earn 7 in a given era in order to progress to the next era. And since the same amount are available in the prehistoric era as the very last, there's less emphasis on the late game than you'd find in a Civ campaign.
Oh, so the stars can be a way of anchoring the game, right? You
How so?
can't progress through the era unless you get enough stars,
Oh, so yeah, you can't choose like
right?
another culture until you get
Yeah.
the 7 stars. Yeah.
So it kind of that helps anchor the game because the way that Civ operates is you get to the next era by just it happens naturally just by how much science someone has,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Whereas this game, it's like you have to actually like do stuff, right? Like you can't just like passively move into the Renaissance era, right? You have to like do stuff to get enough stars
You
to
have
get to the
to
next era.
actively be active, and yeah, like if you fall, like you need to get back up. Someone may fall in the future, but you need to get back up as quick as you can, advance that era, and just maybe pick a civ
And
or a
because
culture
of
that gets you
that,
faster.
one of the things that might be interesting about the game is it may be less able to snowball, right? Like
Very true.
it may be harder for you to pull ahead of everyone, and it remains competitive for a longer period. Because in Civ, one of the problems is that at some point it's not competitive anymore,
But
right? Someone just like steamrolls over
I
people.
also wonder if like once one person gets 7, then everyone advances. That could be a 2. So
Well, that would
it's
just then you would just steamroll everybody at one point, right? Like
no, well, like okay, maybe, but then everyone can choose the more advanced culture. So like if these more I don't know if these advanced like if a modern era culture is better than an ancient culture, like I don't know what the differences are between them. But if that's the case, like if it is better, then it keeps everybody on the same playing field, and everyone. I mean, they don't start at 0 cities or anything when they move on to the next thing, but everyone starts at 0 fame, and fame may be objective based, where it's like get this first, or they may be
mm,
like finding it on the map somewhere. It may be like capture one city, be the first to capture a city. So I don't know if they're
I'll
objective
definitely
based or
have
not.
yeah, I'll definitely have more to say about this when I try out
It's fun.
my hand
It's
at it.
in visually, it's absolutely stunning. Um, the art style is incredible. There's clear as day mountains. So in Civ, you know how like you just can't travel up the big mountains, but you can basically go anywhere you want. This one,
Yeah.
there's like hillsides and landslides that you can't go that way. You have to like go up hills, like inclines around.
Hmm.
It's yeah. So like you can hold a spot that has a mountain in front of you as an archer, and just stay there. The person has to go all the way around. You're just shooting them the whole time. Like it's you can really take advantage of the terrain in this game. I think it's gonna be really good. I think it's gonna be so much fun, and
Is there any
we need to try it on the Civ Show.
is there any indication of when it's gonna come out?
2021 is the only indication. So we don't know
Okay.
early or late, but considering it's pre-alpha, I might consider it might be a little bit later.
Next Christmas.
Maybe. The
Yeah.
absolute latest. July, not July. December 31st, 2021. We promised it was 2021. That could be it. That could
And
be
it's Sega, so there's a good
Sega's the
chance
publisher, though. They're not the developer. Amplitude's the developer. Amplitude, if you know.
I'm not saying bad because Sega, but Sega has a tendency, even when they publish games,
Oh, okay.
to have delays.
Right.
They have a lot of delays. I just remember one of my favorite games when I used to play the Dreamcast was Shenmue. Oh my
yeah,
God,
yeah.
that game got like, and then Shenmue 3 just ended up being like just god awful.
Yeah.
And so um yeah, don't get me started on that, but yeah,
Okay.
that got delayed forever.
So Amplitude, I don't know if you ever heard of any of these games. They've made Endless Space, they've made Endless Legend, Dungeon of the Endless, a lot of endless stuff, and Endless Space too. Look at that. Everything has endless, and then there's humankind. So this will be a really, really interesting game and something that we will definitely try on a special episode of the Civ Show Presents. We're going to call it Civ Show Presents. And we're going to be playing Humankind at some point. We don't know when, though. So whenever it releases, that's when we'll play it. Anything you want to add before we wrap up here?
Oh no, you got me a little excited to try it out. I might even try it out tonight after we're done, man.
It's so good. I'm telling you, you got to play it. All right. Thanks everybody for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias at The Civ Show. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify, which is maybe where you're listening to us from. And where else are we on? We're also on Twitch. Find us on Twitch at The Civ Show.
Yeah. And join our Discord as well if you find us on the Civ Show. And then the one thing, if you're listening to this on Spotify, check out our YouTube channel. My new episode for Better Know a Leader is now available for viewing. It's on Coupe and the Maori. And so there. And then if you want to have input to tell me which one I'm going to do next, you got to join our Discord to let me know who you think I should do next.
Not biased. It's actually really good. It's really interesting. You gotta watch Better Know a Leader on the Maori.
Thank you. I'm really happy that people are enjoying it, to be honest. Like it's a labor of love, really. So I'm happy that people are liking it.
Fascinating. And I was even telling a story to Tiffany earlier about something from your video. And I'm like, it sticks. Your video sticks, man. I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. Anyway, go check that out on our YouTube at The Civ Show. Better Know a Leader. Maori is what you're going to be looking for. That is the most recent video. Until then, we'll be back here on Sunday with part 2 of Big Game Hunters. We're going to see who the ultimate victor is between Korea, Mali, and Rome.
And see if I can dig myself out of that hole I've dug myself into.
And see if you can dig himself out of the hole. Maybe none of us win. We have no idea. There are 5 deity level computers, and it is very hard against 3 idiotic people because we suck, so you don't have to. Anyway,
good outro.
We'll see you on Sunday.
See you then.